All right, so I just want to welcome everybody to our Intro to 2.0 webinar. My name is Kelly Byers. I'm the Customer Success Manager for Bucket. I'm excited to kind of introduce you to the new dashboard, show you around a little bit, and we're going to actually create a funnel using one of our templates. So I'm assuming this is going to take about an hour today. We do have the wonderful Juan from our tech support team on standby to cover the chat. So if you have any comments throughout the webinar or any questions, feel free to ask those as we're going, and then I will open it up for a little question session at the end, of course, too. So just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your time, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm here at my Bucket dashboard. I'm going to begin by showing you around the top navigation. So starting with the funnel section right up here. I'm going to click on funnels. This is going to bring up all of the funnels that I have already created. So I've got just 6 here. I just cleared out a bunch this afternoon. But basically, this is anything that you've done already in your account. There are a lot of different ways that you can view and sort. So over here on the left-hand side, you can view by status. So we've got all, which is what I've got now. Anything that's just active, you can sort by inactive, and then any drafts. So anything you're working on that hasn't been published just yet. And then down here, we've got a new feature that we've added to 2.0. We can now create tags for each funnel. So you can see here at the bottom of this section, you just click here to create a new tag, and then you type in the name of your tag. I have some examples here: Black Friday promo and May 2020 Facebook ad. So of course you can use tags for a lot of different things. We think it comes in handy for identifying different promotions that you're running. Maybe you're someone who has a bunch of different clients that you serve out of your one Bucket account. So perhaps you could set up a tagging system to identify those specific funnels, things of that nature. And then over here at the funnel level is where you're going to add all the different tags that you have. So then another new feature that we have, different from 1.0, is an option to favorite a funnel. It's very easy to do. You just locate this little star next to your funnel, click it, and now it's a favorite. And you can easily deselect that if you wish. So favoriting funnels is probably going to come in handy if you've got like one main funnel that you're working off of. Maybe that's where you've got most of your paid traffic going to, or you're getting most of your leads from that. Then you can just easily identify that within your account. So then at the funnel level, so each different funnel here that I've got, you can see a quick snapshot of the traffic that you've received. So it'll show you how many visitors, how many participants, completions, and then what your opt-in rate is. So there's a couple different options over here I want to point out. So if you ever need to go in and edit your funnel, you would just find this icon here, click that, and you're going to go into the canvas and the builder to make any changes that you need to make. Right in the middle here is your analytics. So I'm going to click on that. You have two options. You can either kind of look at a snapshot of your stats. So again, it's going to be your visitors, your participants for each section, completions, opt-in, all of that. Or if you just want to drill into the responses, so if you want to see exactly how the customer has responded to each question, you would click that. So I'll click on analytics just so you can get a feel for that. So this is broken down by section. So everything that you see up here, these are the various sections that are going to make up your funnel. At the top, we have just a funnel overview. So this is just going to give you a general idea, excuse me, of how many visitors you've had. Again, kind of the same stats that we saw before. You can also access your participant responses via this gray button as well. So if you scroll down, you're just going to work through each section. So we have pre-quiz stats, which this is the difference between 1.0 and 2.0. We are now calling the welcome page the pre-quiz page. So there's going to be a little bit of different terminology throughout that I'll be teaching you, but it'll just help to make things easier when you're getting used to the new platform. So pre-quiz stats are here. And then quiz stats are the statistics for each question that you had. And you can click on each question, you can drill in a little deeper. So you can see by answer option exactly where your percentages break down in terms of who's answering or who's selecting which answer. Conversion stats. So this is dealing with your buckets, and we are trying to get away from calling our outcomes, and now we're just calling them buckets. So another little difference there that'll just make things easier. So these are all the different buckets. This is just a test funnel, so it looks, stats are a little weird, but all of my participants basically ended up in bucket 1 as the storyteller. And then your post-quiz stats, these are lead captures that are associated to all the different buckets. And you can see, obviously, they're all tied to lead capture 1 because everybody on my test runs went into bucket 1. So that's the analytics. Now, if you wanted to look at responses, I'll click on here. This is another new feature. Well, this was a feature in 1.0 that we took away for a little bit, but it has come back in version 2.0. You can now select certain responses to delete. So oftentimes you will probably run a bunch of tests with your funnel, and you may want to just clear those out so that by the time you actually start getting true responses, that's all that you have in your stats, just to keep everything nice and clean. So all you have to do is just come over here to the left-hand side, select the answers that you wish to clear out, and just hit this gray button, and they'll be deleted. And then if you want to export all of these answers, you just click export responses right up here. Enter in your email address, and you'll get a CSV, and you can take that data and do whatever you wish with all of that. So I'm just going to use this arrow up here to click back out of here. And then the last thing that I want to cover under the funnel section is these options over here. So you see this little 3-dot menu. If you click that, you have a few different options here. So funnel link, this was something that we recently added because we were getting a lot of requests. Users wanted it to be easier to be able to locate their funnel. So we added this. So instead of having to click in and edit and grab from the actual builder, we just went ahead and added it here. This is also going to give you a shortcut to go into your settings. I'm not going to dive into that now, but I will get to that eventually. And settings is where you're going to do things like set up your email service provider, Facebook pixel, all of that fun stuff. Duplicate. So another change in terminology. We called it cloning in version 1.0, but now we're just calling it duplicate. So if you need to take maybe an original version of your funnel, you're going to make some changes to it, and you want to redo it, you're just going to duplicate the original one and then make those changes. So if you have a funnel that you wish to unpublish, which is always a good idea to do, you've got something that you're no longer using, you can unpublish here. And then, of course, just to keep your little collection of funnels nice and clean, you can always delete anything that you're not using. All right, so that kind of covers the funnels section. I'm going to cruise along the top navigation here, and next I'm going to go to templates. So if you haven't spent any time kind of going through the templates that we have created for 2.0, I do encourage you to do that. We've kind of jazzed up the templates that we used to have. We've got a lot of different options for you. It's just important to keep in mind that all of these are highly customizable. So if you see something and you're like, well, that doesn't really align with my goal or my business or what I'm trying to do, don't worry, because you can take any template that we have in here and you can make it work for your business or your specific goal for that particular funnel. So I would just spend some time kind of previewing these. It's very easy to do. You just find one that you kind of like and you hit this preview button, and you can actually click through as if you are a participant. So I'm just going to scroll down here so that you can see what this looks like. So this is the landing page. These all look kind of similar. You know, they've got a few, some have more sections than others, some have bios, some don't, but they have multiple call to action buttons located throughout. You're going to see most of them do have a social proof. This is kind of a bulleted section for various information that you might want to include. And then we have a footer at the bottom of each, which is going to basically just list your about us, privacy policy, terms of service, things of that nature. So again, you would just click start quiz, and then you can just go ahead and work through this to check this out. You can also click funnel flow up here, And this is going to show you kind of how this particular funnel maps out. So there's really no question as to what you're getting involved in when you're selecting your template. So if for some of you, this is the first time you've seen this screen or seen how the setup is, this is what your new funnel flow is going to look like in 2.0. So we're starting with the pre-quiz page. And then I'm just going to scroll along the bottom, and these are all the questions that are populated in the template already. You've got your quiz results section, which is basically where you're mapping certain answers to your buckets. And then over here, you have your lead captures that are specific to each bucket, and then your post-quiz pages. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, and if you decide that you just want to go ahead and use a template, you can just hit select and customize, and you'll go into the builder. I'm going to click back. And I'm going to continue along the top navigation, but we'll come back to this, of course, because we're going to use a template to build a funnel. So single pages, this is a tab that we just added. It's a feature that was added maybe 2 weeks ago. So this serves the purpose. We're getting a lot of requests for the single page builder because a lot of people didn't have a website that had about us, terms of service, privacy policy, where they could link in their footer. So we basically made that happen. So I'll give you a quick preview of that. You just have these single page layouts. They're very basic. It's basically just a bunch of text, and you can add a picture, you can change out the logo, but this is by no means meant to serve as some flashy landing page or anything of that nature. It is just pretty straightforward, and it's mostly just to serve the point of you being able to have a page that has a standalone URL that you can link at the bottom of your funnel. And so you could also, you could use that in other areas of your business as well. If you just want to send somebody to your terms and conditions, privacy policy, about us, etc. So I'll show you this really quick. Again, very straightforward. We've even put a bunch of legal jargon in here. So we do recommend that, of course, you comb through this and make sure that it aligns with everything your company is offering and your industry standards and all of that. But we did give you a pretty decent framework here for that. I'm going to click out of there. So again, I'm not really going into single page builder all that much, but I will point out when I show you the knowledge base that there is a webinar replay available on how to use the single pages. So you can watch that. It was recorded just a couple weeks ago. So Facebook and bonus training, this is not something that you're going to see in your account. Don't worry though, it doesn't pertain. This is just something that we have as staff. And then over here, you have an option to create a new funnel. So just be mindful though, that if you click that button, you're going to go straight into building a funnel without a template, which can be kind of a scary thing to do if you don't have that much experience using 2.0. So I would not recommend doing that for a while. I would just go ahead and stick to going to the templates first, picking the one that you want, and then hitting select and customize for that. So traveling along the top navigation, you have this little bell here. This is a feature that's kind of a work in progress right now for us. We are going to be adding things like any updates to the platform, any feature requests that have just gone live, things of that nature. So stay tuned for that. And then our knowledge base. So it's right up here, question mark, where it says help. I'm going to click in there just to show you. We've got a great section over here for getting started. This is going to be a collection of tutorials, videos, articles that are written, just a really good place to start if you're feeling overwhelmed or a little confused. And then we've kind of set this up in the order that you may be kind of working through the app. So you can just kind of follow through, get all of your articles about the canvas, the builder, all the way down to the bottom. And so webinar replays, as I mentioned, are always down here. And just a little side note, we typically post all webinars under this section within 48 hours of the original airtime of the webinar. So this webinar will be here as well, but here's the single page builder. We also tacked on an email service provider overview from our former marketing expert if you have any questions about that. So I do recommend watching that. I'm just going to close out of here. And then over here, my initials, and it's a little colored circle. There's a drop-down option there. If If I click on my account, I'm just going to show you quickly what you can do over here, because we do get a lot of questions about, how do I change the email address associated with my account? I want to change my password. That can all be done right here. And we also have articles in our knowledge base detailing how to do this as well, if you might need access to those. So you can do all of that there. And then over here on the left is plan management. This is also where you can change your credit card details. So I'll just click on that so you can see it, because we do get a lot of questions about that as well. Add new credit card can be done right there. This is also where you're going to manage your custom domains. So if you have any of those set up, that would be there, and we walk you through directions there as well. And then your integrations. So any integrations that you have with your email service provider, things of that nature, can all be managed there. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and that kind of explains the top navigation. So going down the middle here, we have some shortcuts set up for you. So again, creating a new funnel, that's going to take you to create a funnel without a template. Picking a template is what we recommend. And then going to your funnels. So just kind of shortcuts from the top navigation. These stats that are right here are just today's growth for anything that you have live. So if you have one funnel that's running, it's very easy to determine where this information is coming from. If you have 20, it's just going to be a collection of everything. But again, you can go at the funnel level and see individually. And then those favorite funnels that I mentioned, when you select the star next to your funnel, this is where you're going to see all of those. So I'm going to dive in now to the funnel builds. So I'm going to go to templates. And this is the one that I'm going to use. What's your number one content creation strength? Since I already know that I'm going to use this, I'm not going to preview it. I'm just going to hit select and customize. So a couple things to note too, as you may have already determined another difference between 1.0 and 2.0. We are now just calling everything a funnel. So whereas before in 1.0, we had different sections for discovery surveys, which are a little more simple, open-ended questions. And then we had a section for segmentation funnels, which were a little more complex. While we do not have that difference listed anymore, just note that you are able to take any of our templates and you can either simplify them down to a very basic discovery survey, or you can make them incredibly complicated to a segmentation funnel. So you're definitely not stuck to anything that these templates offer. And don't be worried if things don't look quite the same, because you can still accomplish the discovery survey or the segmentation funnel. We just kind of simplified it and we're calling everything a funnel. So before I dive into the build, I just kind of want to explain to you what's up here first before we get too far into it. So basically, you're going to have two main sections in 2.0 when you're building a funnel. So the first is the canvas. So that's the first thing that opens. And this is basically just the place where you're going to go to add all of the components, which are these pieces. The components are the pre-quiz page, the questions, the lead capture, basically every little piece that creates your full funnel. This is where you're going to add all of those pieces and connect them all to create your funnel flow. So a couple things, if you are going at this without a template, this is going to be completely blank. So you will have to simply grab your items, starting with the pre-quiz page, drag it over to the canvas and drop it. It's not going to let me drop this because there's already a pre-quiz page and you can't have two. But it is a drag and drop builder. So you can take any element from the left-hand side or any component and just drag it over to the canvas, and then you drop it where you want it to be in your funnel flow. So a couple things on that. Well, actually, I don't want to get too far into it before I explain everything else. So I'll just keep going with that. But again, this is just the place where you're going to add all of these components and make sure that everything's connected. We do recommend staying in the canvas and getting all of this set up. So from the pre-quiz page all the way over to your thank you page or your outcome page, however you choose to end your funnel, we recommend you get all of that set up first before you go into the builder, which is where you're going to do things like add some images, change out the background colors, change the button colors, add your logo. The builder section is just kind of where you're doing all the fun stuff, like adding videos, changing out the footer links, you know, kind of personalizing the funnel. So we just recommend getting everything set up in the canvas first and then going into the builder. That way you're not popping back and forth. So I'll come back to that. And then settings, I am going to click on here just to kind of give you a quick overview of settings. And I know if anybody's feeling overwhelmed or if this seems like a lot, just always know that you can email support@bucket.io, and our tech support team is happy to assist you with any of this. And we have written knowledge base articles for just about every single section. So if you do feel lost, you can always go there, type it into the search bar, and chances are you'll find an article or a video that'll help. So I want to go ahead, go through a little bit of this pretty quickly, but so your basic settings, you want to just always make sure that you're changing the funnel name, because as you know, if you keep everything as copy of quiz type 3 or copy of quiz type 4, it can get very confusing in your collection of funnels. Just make sure you're always updating that. And then if you need to give it a different name internally, that's the spot to do that as well. Meta information, nothing different here from 1.0. You always want to update the title, the description, and the image. This is used for social networks and search engines. And then the SEO robots, again, the same as what we had in 1.0. So that's basic settings. And then you have tracking codes, which I'll just click in here real quick. So you're going to see that a lot of this is similar from 1.0. We really didn't change too much in terms of what 1.0 used to be called the configurations, and now we're just calling it settings. So the UTM variables, so you can set this up at the funnel level. Your field logic, so basically being able to take information from one question and carry it along to the next question. That can be done there as well. Opt-in notifications, quiz results, emails. These are also not in every single account, so don't worry about that. Your redirect links, we do have that option, so this comes in handy when, say you've got a bunch of ads running to a certain funnel, but you decide that you need to make some edits to it. If it's an edit that you're not able to make since it's already published, just note that you can duplicate that funnel, make your changes, and then republish it, and you can put your redirect link here so you don't have to go back and change all of the links in your ads. And then your integrations are going to be down here. So something else that's important to note, you do always have to save your changes up here in the upper right hand corner when you're making any changes to settings. This is not the case when you're working in the builder or in Canvas. So we do always want to stress that it's important to always save up here when you're doing anything under this section. So I'm going to pop out of here, go back to Canvas, and then I'll just go over this information up here real fast. So as I mentioned, we have auto save now. So when you're doing anything in Canvas and Builder, you do not have to hit a save button. So you will see as you're going through that this is going to change. You just want to make sure that you're not moving through things too quickly and that the system is in fact changing anything that, any edits that you make before you leave the screen. Your preview button. We always recommend, previewing it a few times as you're going through just to ensure that you're liking the way that it looks. Once you're ready to publish, that is going to be right up here. And then once it is published, your link is always going to live right here. But remember, as I mentioned before, you can get it at the funnel level by hitting that 3-dot button, and you'll see it as an option in that drop down to just grab your link from there. Once the funnel is here, there's an option to copy it easily right there. Warnings, just be mindful of that. I'm going to cover warnings in just a second. So that is something that's new in 2.0, but I'll show you where that comes from. So now that I've kind of given you the rundown of the dashboard, the navigation, a few of these other things, I'm going to go ahead and kind of dive right in. So again, we are at the Canvas sections. This is the section where we're just going to be adding all of these components over here. If you ever want to hide this section, you can just hit this right here and it's going to give you a little more room on the canvas. So going back to components, again, these are the building blocks to create your funnel. These are all already set up in the order that they should be when you're using a template. But if you needed to make any changes, it's a drag and drop builder, and you just select what you want and drag it over. So the pre-quiz page is the old welcome page from 1.0. It is required to have this component on the canvas. However, we have recently made it optional to actually utilize the pre-quiz page. So now you can do an auto start if you want. An auto start is basically making it possible for your participant to click your link, and then they're immediately going into the first question. So there's no landing page. I was showing you that landing page in the template. Your customer will not see that if you use this auto start function. I'm not going to use that because I do want to show you how to make changes to the pre-quiz page, but just know that that option is there. So I do invite you to kind of play around with that if that's something you're interested in. So the pre-quiz page is added. Quiz questions, nothing has changed here. 4 question types as we had in 1.0, radio and checkbox, both multiple choice. 1 option to select here, multiple options to check off here. Short input and long input. Are those open-ended questions? This is a shorter response. This is a longer response. Quiz questions is something that's a little different. I'm going to go ahead and scroll over just so you can see that. So quiz results is something that is sort of in the background of the funnel flow, and your participant will not see this. So this is not something that you have to stylize. You don't have to edit this. You don't really have to be mindful of how it's going to look, because this is something that happens behind the scenes. This is basically just setting up your different buckets. So we have labeled them B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. You can have just one bucket. You do still have to use this, even if you have just one bucket, so just be mindful of that, but you'll just send everybody through the same bucket, obviously. So for this particular one, we have 5. We have named them storyteller, demonstrator, jester. This particular quiz is set up to be mapped. So just as we had in version 1.0, you have a couple different options. You can set up your mapping to get your participant to the correct bucket, or you can set up scoring. I'm just going to stick with mapping for the sake of this webinar, but if you're interested in scoring, it's basically set up kind of in the same fashion. So with mapping, you just have to go back and you have to pick which questions are going to be your segmentation or your diagnostic questions. So this particular flow has 7 questions, but that doesn't mean that every question is going to be attached to a different bucket. Same as in version 1.0. You may have 15 questions, but only one question is really the question that's going to determine what bucket your participant falls into. So that's of course up to you, whatever makes most sense for you in terms of setting up the quiz results. But I am just going to show you really quick how you map your questions, since that is part of setting everything up in the Canvas. So when you've got all of your questions and your answers set up, and you've also set up all of your different buckets, and again, it's very easy to change the name. You just type in here however you want to change it. If you want to just duplicate a bucket, you can easily do that, and you can also delete them if need be. If you want to start fresh and just delete them all, you can certainly do that too. And then if you need to add more buckets, you just click here and it's going to look the exact same. So to keep this simple, I'm going to say that question 7 is my segmentation or my diagnostic question. So all you have to do is make sure that everything is set up, and you can see that all of these answers just map directly into this section. But where you're making the specific connection is right here, this logo. So I'm going to click on here. And all you have to do is connect the answers to the bucket. Again, I'm going to make it very straightforward for this. So if they answer A, they're a storyteller. And then you just click out. You go back to option B. If they answer B, they're going to be a demonstrator. If they answer C, they'll be a jester, educator, and you get the point. So another new feature that we added, we got a lot of requests from this from 1.0, so we did add it into 2.0, is you can now map one answer to multiple buckets. So we've already got this option mapped to curator, but I can also add it to educator. And then you can easily deselect that if you change your mind. So please let us know if you have any questions on the quiz results. And then moving on through the funnel flow, we just have our, I'll go ahead and show you on this under the components, but we basically have our lead captures. So there's nothing fancy there. You know what a lead capture is. This is the most important part where you're getting their contact information. We have two different options. And again, you would just grab that item and drag it over. But we have a basic lead capture or we have a webinar capture. So of course, that is for anybody who is doing a funnel flow that's ultimately going to end up with a webinar registration. You would select the webinar capture. But if you're just doing a basic funnel, you can go ahead and just stick with this one. So this is already added on here, so I'm not going to change much there. And then your outcome pages. So we all know what an outcome page is. Again, it's where you're going to present the outcome to your participant, or maybe you're just going to tease the outcome, whichever you choose to do. But something that's important to note over here on the quiz outcome pages, and I'm just going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate. You know how I was mentioning before these warnings up here. So I'm just going to show you really quick. I'm going to change this a little bit and you're going to see this change. So all of these pieces in Bucket, all of these components need to be connected by these tags and these lines. So this is all done for you already if you're using a template. This is what it looks like if it's not connected. So rather than gray tabs and gray lines, you're going to have red tabs and no line will be there. And now I have warnings because I have openings that need to be closed. So I'm just going to demonstrate how this will work really quick. And I'm actually just going to delete this thank you page for now. So I've got this lead capture and I need to figure out how I want to end the funnel flow. So you have a couple options here with the quiz outcome. It's important to note here, we have two different types of outcome pages. You can have an outcome only. And by having this green flag listed on these items is an indicator that that's a stopping point for your funnel. So anything with a green flag is not stackable. So I wouldn't be able to add this outcome with another one of these. So if I wanted to do lead capture to outcome page to maybe an external URL, the system's not going to let me because I just can't stack two stopping points basically in the funnel flow. So I'm going to delete this just to show you. So if I did want to go lead capture to outcome page to thank you page, I would have my lead capture here. I'm going to do outcome to post quiz because this is open. It doesn't have the flag on it. I'm going to add this. I'm going to connect the dots right there. So we're going to lose one warning. It's going down. And then I'm going to go down to my post quiz page. So again, there's a couple different options here, but these are all stopping points that cannot be stacked on top of each other. So your different options are a sales page. I don't want you to get confused by that. On the sales page, as it's set up now, we are not able to process a sale. There's no shopping cart functionality on that sales page. It is set up for you to ask for the sale, but then from there, you're going to have to add an external redirect to your sales page. Anything that you use for your shopping cart, it could be your Amazon, pre-order page, whatever it is that you're using. But you are going to have to send them on to another platform to actually get their money. So you have the sales page, you have a webinar page. So this is going to just be, where they sign up for a webinar. Thank you page is pretty straightforward. And then your external redirect. So if after the post quiz page, you want them to click a button and they're taken out of Bucket, they're taken somewhere else, you would use this external URL. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a thank you page. And then again, I'm going to make this connection. And I have 0 warnings again. So I'm going to zoom out down here. I use this a lot, this little square. It just kind of zooms everything out so you don't have to scroll across. Just kind of a little shortcut that I always use because I'm about to dive into the pre-quiz page. So that covers all of the different components. Again, I just want to stress that you just spend all of your time over here in Canvas first. And I do want to demonstrate to you since I didn't really show you. So this particular flow has 7 questions. If you don't have 7 questions, no big deal. You just come over here, you'll see the trash can and you can delete it. I'm not going to edit them here because you can see that you edit them in the builder. So I'm going to wait. But if you maybe wanted to, like I wanted to add a question in here, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to select my question type. I'll go ahead with radio. Just going to add that down here. And then you do have to create the path. So if somebody says, oh, I haven't started running ads yet, well, you're going to create a different question for them, and you're going to send them down to question, it's called Q8 because it's at the end of the funnel. So you would type your other question here, but then you do have to make sure, see, we still have 2 warnings up here. So you have to make sure that they're rejoining the flow right up here. So that's, I just wanted to demonstrate to you how you add a question if you need to, because chances are very good that you may need to add more. I'm going to delete this just because I want to keep everything as it is with the template. And then my warning is back because I have to reconnect this. All right. So now we have covered the canvas. We have covered all the components. So I'm going to go into the Prequiz page. So when you're ready to edit this, you're just going to click edit. And you can see here that we have now moved into the builder. So there's a couple things that I want to point out over here as well. So clearly this is way different than 1.0 when it comes to how you're creating your funnel flow and how you're editing and designing all of your funnels. But we think this is a far more sophisticated tool. You have a lot more options that you can do. As you can see, our templates already are much improved. So we do hope that you feel the same way. This is going to be pretty high level. There is a lot to go over in these sections, but to be mindful of time, I'm just going to show you kind of a few key things that most people do want to edit on these pages. Something else I want to stress, so these templates, you can use these templates with a lot of confidence, knowing that we have A/B tested almost every element of these templates. Either we have used them ourselves, our customers have used them, and we do know that they work. So when you're using one of our templates, we ask that you try not to just reinvent the whole thing and recreate it. Also, because you will break certain elements in this template. So they can be a little fussy. I'm not sure if you've experienced that, if you've already tried to edit our templates, but you do want to be kind of careful in here, because if you know, as an example, if you accidentally delete like this whole section, it is pretty much impossible for you to be able to build that back if you're not kind of more at the expert level. So what would happen then is you would just have to start over, and you're not able to take certain pieces from different funnels and add them to another one. So, you know, if you had your whole landing page set up, but you messed this up and this is gone and you want to bring this back, of course, you can always email support to see if we can help you. But in a lot of times, it's almost just easier to start over. So just be really mindful of that when you're making any edits. You know, you don't have to go crazy with this. You know, just change out a few things to make sure that it aligns with your brand's identity. Of course, we want you to love your funnel in the way that it looks. So I'll just point out a few things over here. So under the builder, we also have components. So the components look a little different over here. Start at the top, we've got layout organization. So as you can see, these little dotted lines everywhere, everything is set up in a container or a column. So this is where things can get a little confusing if you're not used to working like this, which again is why we recommend just sort of working within this framework that's already set up, because it just makes things a lot easier. But basically, when you're wanting to add any element to this page, you have to first add a container or a column to put it in. So I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And then we have basic components. So once you've added a container or a column, you then have to add a basic component inside of it. So whether that's going to be a text box, which is this one, or if you're going to add a link to something, or a quiz button, which is right up here, a video, or an image. So again, you're going to add the container or column first, and then you're going to drag over the text box. And then we do have advanced components as well. This already has a countdown timer on it. This countdown timer sets for, sorry, I can't talk, set for a specific time. If you want an evergreen counter, so you're just going to set like a deadline that really kind of never expires, but it's still going to create a sense of urgency for your participant, you would use the deadline counter. So that kind of covers the general layout organization. Up here is properties. So this is where you're going to be doing a lot of your customizing, your editing to make sure that everything looks exactly the way you want. There's a lot in here. So again, if you feel overwhelmed or if you have any questions, just feel free to email us or check out the knowledge base because we do have some resources available for that. But again, there's not a lot that you have to do over here. You don't really have to dig in too deep in order to just make some really basic changes. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that. Beginning with this logo. Everybody's going to have to change that because it's completely generic. So it's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is double click. Now I have this little collection of images that I've already added to my Bucket account. You can see I've got some duplicates in here. We are working on adding a feature that's going to allow you to clear out the images that you've added because you may have already learned that we have specific image sizes and dimensions that need to go in specific places. And so that's why I have multiples in here. So there will be an option to clear those out. But for now, you're going to see I have some duplicates. If you don't have any images that you've already uploaded, no big deal. You're just going to have to click here to upload, and then it'll give you access to your desktop or wherever you store your images. So I'm going to find my Bucket logo. I'm just going to select that and hit confirm. Now you can see it's added there. If I want to size this down a little bit, I'm just going to highlight it and drag that in just a tad. So I'm happy with that. Now for the countdown. So I'm going to go over here, and it's really important. You always want to make sure that whatever section you're editing, that you've got the blue highlighter around it and that this label is correct. So here it says box, box, box. That's not correct, but if I have it here on countdown, I know that I'm in the right spot. So then I'm going to look over here, make sure I'm under properties. So it's important to note too that anything really specific, if you're making any customizations to a section, it's going to be under properties over here. So you can see this is where you set up your countdown timer. So if I'm going to add, you can see it's changing in real time. I went ahead and put 5 days on there, and you can adjust the out. You can just do hours, minutes if you want. You can add the text that appears once the countdown expires. And then you can also set up a redirect page, which we do recommend. So just in case somebody is trying to test you and they want to see what happens when the countdown gets to 0, there is still an option for them to take the quiz, and you can set up a redirect here with your URL right down there. And again, you can see changes have been saved just a few seconds ago. Now moving on to button color. So I'm just going to click here. Again, I'm just showing you a few little edits from this page. I'm going to scroll down. For things like this, I think it's easiest, honestly, to just look for the color. So you're going to get this little color box, and obviously that's the same one. Although, wait. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm in the right spot. So I'm just going to click there. If you know your hex code, you can go ahead and paste it in, or you can just use our color selector. And it's nice too because it's just updating right there. So if you're using the slider and you find a color that you like, you can go ahead and just leave it and hit OK. So it's very easy to change that. Now for these text boxes. So a couple things to note on here. Again, most of this is going to be edited over here on the property side. All you need to do is double click in this text box. I'm going to highlight what's here. New headline here. We are working on removing this section, so we do not recommend that you use this to edit your font size or your family. I know it can be kind of confusing, but just bear with us. We are going to remove that because things work a lot better when you're updating it over here in the font properties. So this is where you can change the size, you can change the font type, semi-bold it, anything like that. And you can also change out the color. So I'll go ahead and change that for you just so you can see what that looks like. So there's so many options here to customize, and it is quite simple. If there is a section that you want to delete, and again, be very careful of this, make sure you want to delete it before you hit this. Just make sure that it's highlighted, and you can just hit this trash can here and it'll be removed. So you just continue to work your way down the page, editing all of this text, the headlines, all of that. Again, I showed you how to do the button. Just make sure it's highlighted, and then it saves that color too so you can keep it consistent. So another thing, you know, we did try to use some pretty generic background images and whatnot in our templates, but just in case you need to change this out, you can see that I'm just clicking over here just to make sure that I'm in the right row and that the whole section is highlighted. And I know that it is because this showed up over here. So this lets me know that I'm on layer 1 and I'm in the right place. So now if I want to delete it, I'm just going to hit this X and it's disappeared. Now I'm going to hit this plus button. And then I'm going to click on images to add something new. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm just going to select this. It's kind of a generic graphic. I'm going to hit confirm. And then I'm just going to fix some of the properties a little bit because this looks a little weird over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in here. A couple of the tricks that I always have for this section in case you've already tried to kind of change this image. It defaults to repeat. So I'm just hitting no repeat on that. I'm going to go ahead and center this, and then I just want it to cover the whole space. And you can see those changes kind of filled up that whole box. And again, I have detailed this in the knowledge base since it is kind of tricky. So if you get stuck on that, you can always go there. Social proof, this is always here, on most of our templates. It's pretty easy to change this section. If you happen to not have any use for social proof, no big deal. If you don't have any, publications that you've been mentioned in or any businesses that you care to refer to, you can just delete this whole section by making sure it's highlighted and hitting the trash can. Maybe you don't need this many. Perhaps you just have 4. That's perfectly fine too. You just highlight the one, you can delete it, and then you can see that the spacing is adjusted. So again, you would just continue to kind of work your way down through this whole section. Footer. So remember I was telling you about the single page builder. This is where this is going to come into play. So when you have your about us, your terms of service, or your privacy policy, I'll show you how to change out the link. I'm just going to go ahead and click this, and you can see that the label says link, so I know I'm in the right spot. I'm still in properties, so I'm going to scroll to the top, and then this is where you type in the label. So it just says about us. And then here's where you're going to change your URL. So you have a couple options here. You can have an empty link, which I don't really know when you would use that. You can have your web address. So if you already have a website set up and then you just want to directly link it there, that's where you would add that. But then if you created a single page in our single page builder, you would hit single page, and then you're always going to have access to the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, about us, all of that you already set up. So I'll just go ahead and change that. And then you have the option to determine how it's going to open. So is it going to open in a new window, or is it going to open in this window? And I'd always do the recommended in a new window. And I'll hit done, and then that just saved. So I do want to show you how to add a component over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a video at the bottom of this section. So to do that, I would go over to components. I'm going to grab a container. I'm going to add that here. I'm going to click this container, and then I'm going to grab the video component from the basic side over here. Make sure that that green line is in that box. And now it's giving me a space to upload my video. I'm going to highlight this, just click on it, make sure it's selected. Now I'm going to go over to properties. So currently we are set up to take videos from YouTube and Vimeo. We do plan on adding a few down the road, but for now, this is where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and add a YouTube video, and then we just need the video ID. So it's not an embed code as it was in 1.0, and it's not a link. So for YouTube, the ID is right up here. So I'm just going to copy this from the URL, head back over here, paste it in. As soon as I hit enter, it should populate. And there's my video. So those are all the changes that I'm going to show you on the Prequiz page, just because we are running out of time. So I'm going to click back over to the canvas, and I'll just show you a few things real quick. In terms of questions, so you are going to have to edit all of the questions. It's very easy to do. So you're going to go to question 1. And then you just find this little pencil, edit in builder. We've set it up very easy for you. So basically all you have to do is click in here. You can go ahead and new question text here. These are your answer options. You have a couple different options here. You can duplicate the choice, delete the choice, and if you need to add another option, you can do that down here as well. And then you can stylize this any way that you want. And we've made it very easy to just go from question 1 to question 2 to question 3 to question 4. So it's super slick. You don't have to pop out each time to edit your different questions. But of course, you just want to make sure that you've updated everything, because there is a lot of specific information in here that needs to be changed each time. So there are some properties over here as well on the left-hand side. There's pop-up properties and there's question properties. So first I'm going to show you the pop-up, which is basically what this looks like. So this is stylizing the pop-up box of your question. So you have a bunch of different options here. I won't get too far into it for the sake of time, but this is where you're going to do things like set up your progress bar. You can bump up the percentage if you want. You can change the color, the text of the progress bar. So again, everything is highly customizable. I mean, if you're not able to make a specific change that you're seeking in here, I'll be very surprised. So then you're going down to question properties. So this is basically all of the specifics for the actual question and how that looks. So if you want to add an image to that, you would do that at the question level. If you want to add an other option, you would do that here as well. If you want to add images to your choices, which a lot of people choose to do, you just double click, you're going to have access to your image library from Bucket, and then you can just easily add those there. How many choices per row? I mean, you can really pick anything you want. Randomizing the choice order, which we always recommend doing to kind of throw off your participant if they start to kind of get an idea of where their outcome is headed. And then you can also allow people to skip if you choose to. And then you can dictate what happens after they skip. So again, a lot of customizations that you can do here for questions. I'm going to go back to Canvas. So you would work through all of your questions, just kind of sliding through here. Again, you want to make sure that your mapping is set up, whether you're doing just regular mapping for your outcome or your quiz results, or if you're going to set up scoring. But if you're just starting out, I recommend just sticking to mapping. I just did the one question here, but you can certainly do more than that if you need. And all of this, like all the options for question 7, just plug into quiz results. But then it's at this level that you make the specific connection. And then from there, you have to determine, and again, you could have, if you want one lead capture for all of your buckets, you can do that. We have set up a specific lead capture and outcome to post quiz and a thank you page for each one. So I'll click in lead capture really quick, and editing all of this is basically the same. So, you're going to click in here to edit your text box. You can change the button color if you want by going to properties. Scroll down here. So it all works the same. Change out these different images, just kind of customize this the way that you need to. And the same would go for your outcome pages. So you're just going to spend a little time editing each one. Something that's kind of handy to note, I always recommend starting at the top with the first one. Get it set up the way that you want. And I know that they might all be a little bit different in their own way, but then once you get it, set up with your colors, if you're adding your logo there, whatever you choose to do, you can go in and you can just duplicate each one rather than going in one by one and making your changes. So if you have like kind of blanket changes that you're making to each one, just use that option. So I'm going to scroll back out here. So that kind of covers the Canvas and the builder. So once you've gotten to the point, you've previewed it, you've made sure everything is set up the way that you want, and you're ready to publish, you would head up here to the screen button. And again, you're getting that warning, same thing as 1.0, where it's asking you to select a bucket domain. These are basically the same, but now it's just go-to.bucketforms.com. So you would go ahead and select the one that you want. You can also add a custom domain here. So I'm not going to get into that, but again, we have plenty of resources in the knowledge base on how to add a custom domain. And then once you're completely confident that you're ready to go, you're just going to hit publish funnel. And it was published successfully. So you can copy the link here, and then you can go ahead and send it out the door. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. But basically, aside from that, you would have to, prior to publishing, but again, I didn't want to get too far into it, but I'm going to touch on the settings again. You just want to make sure that you're always going in and updating all of this. And again, we do have plenty of resources available. There, it opened up. These are just the different integrations that I'm connected with, but you can see in our knowledge base all the different email service providers that we have directly integrated with. And we do have additional ones coming, but also if you don't see yours on there, chances are you can integrate with Zapier. So, and there are plenty of resources to do that as well. But again, you can always reach out for help at support@bucket.io. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the presentation part.